riskier you get. But on the other hand, I'm very spiritual and believe there's a plan and all the rest, so I don't know.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yeah, it is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the RP Show. Welcome to a brand new week. And we're back on your televisions, Game Plus TV, all across Canada, all 10 Canadian provinces, 2 territories, and 31 U.S. states. Glad to have you aboard. And, we're also on WQEE Radio, where we are Atlanta's NHL show, podcast and streaming. I'm in the South Florida studio for one more week. It's going to be a very big week here as the Stanley Cup comes here. Thursday for Game 3. We'll be talking hockey today. I got a bit of a roadmap, I think, not only just for today, but for the months moving forward as we welcome in from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, Darren Moose DuPont. We're getting the howdies, the hellos, the bonjours, the holas. Chad Yanchicki writes in, says, good morning from friendly Manitoba, where we are on channel 1190, Bell MTS cable. Ryan in Toronto says, hello from Toronto, Rod Squat. And Ryan O'Rady is checking in from Atlanta on WQE. So we got the usual gang, Moose, the gang's all together. I'm going to tell you, before I jump into the Quick Six show topics, there's a few things we're changing here into our second 1,000 shows. We've been doing the Quick Six show topic for years, right? Way back. Hey, happy birthday to us. You forgot our birthday, didn't you, Darren? You forgot it. You forgot it on Saturday.
That?
Everybody did. It's okay.
I didn't even get a chance to forget it. I had a beautiful message from you when I woke up in the morning. So that was nice to wake up to on the Saturday morning.
My Dale Mike Lee reminded me, and I reminded all and sundry, that June 3rd, 2019 was when this show was born, 1,013 episodes ago. So there's that. But now we're into our second 1,000 shows. And this is what I'm thinking. We're going to talk hockey in hour one, and all the other topics the rest of the way. And then we'll see if this stands. And then moving into hour two, because I'm a big pro football guy and, frankly, a big Canadian Football League guy. We'll see how it goes, but I'd like hour two to be a lot of football throughout the summer because it is week one of the CFL. We're going to talk about that in the Quick Six. But I've got like 10 topics. There's 6 main ones, Moose, but then 10 topics. And, 4 more that we'll get into, and that has to do with hockey. So enough of that. I'll just tell you that coming up with the program today, Craig Ballard will be with us from the LockedOn Blue Jays podcast, and he's in hour one. And in hour two, Rob Rossi from the Athletic Pittsburgh. And to talk about the hiring of Kyle Dubas, which happened on June 1st. What was that, Thursday? And can you hit the Quick Six show horn, please, Director Jordan? And we'll jump right into it. And again, it's always been the Quick Six show topics are of importance to me, but I'm going to change this up too, Moose, because I notice a lot of I was studying some analytics on the weekend. A lot of people don't tune in until like 12:05 Eastern and after, and they miss the top topics right off the top. So how about this? We'll open with NBA and blow everybody's minds. Gabe Vincent scored 23 points. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo each had 21, and the visiting Miami Heat evened up the NBA Finals at a game each by overcoming a monster effort by Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, 111-108 on Sunday night. Series tied 1-1, Game 3 back here in South Florida on Wednesday. Now we're not going to sit and debate the NBA. Not what we do here. Point 2, Justin Wright Foreman's record-setting performance helped the Saskatchewan Rattlers rebound from a 42-point loss Saturday night and dispatch the Scarborough Shooting Stars 96-84 on Sunday at SaskTel Center. And Kobe McEwen's 28 points led the Brampton Honey Badgers to the wire-to-wire victory 94-82 over the Montreal Alliance Sunday in the Canadian Elite Basketball League. So we got the basketball out of the way before all the regular fans of the stuff we normally talk about join the program. See what I did there, Moose? What do you think about that switch?
Not bad, not bad. It's like eating your vegetables first so you can get to the meat and potatoes.
That's exactly it. And we can get into some story time here because I got the Memmer coming up and, of course, the Stanley Cup Game 2 tonight, which is, of course, our poll question, which we'll get to in a moment. But we spent some time in the hockey rinks this weekend here in South Florida. Went to watch a friend's kid play, Danny, Sunday morning in what I think was the Bantam Junior Panthers League Final. And the weirdest thing happened. Now, number one, I'm not going to name who the folks were. The Golden Girl and I were sitting in the stands, and they were talking about what we're going to be watching on TV Sunday night. And she said, the Memorial Cup final. They were like, the what? We're in a hockey rink. These are hockey parents. But I understand anytime, you should see the look on Americans' faces when I say that we're going to watch the Memorial Cup, whether it be the round robin or the tiebreaker, the semi. The what? So for the uninitiated, the Quebec Remparts say they can't wait to get home and party. William Rousseau made 32 saves. MVP James Malatesta scored his 5th goal in 4 games, and the Remparts rolled over the Seattle Thunderbirds 5-0 in Sunday's Memorial Cup final in Kamloops, BC. This is the national championship for junior hockey. It is the what, Darren? The March Madness finale. It's the national championship. If you want to use college sports terms of major junior hockey in Canada, the biggest of the big. And it's the first Memorial Cup for the Rempart, who play out of Quebec City, since 2006. So I just want to spend a minute on this. Patrick Roy, we're familiar with him. For the longest time, the NHL's wins leader as a goaltender. He's the coach and general manager of the Quebec Remparts. So congrats to him. He's going to the NHL. We don't know where, but it wasn't much of a game Sunday. You were calling the National World Paralympic gold medal game Sunday. So did you see any of the final last night of the Memor in Kamloops?
I couldn't help but have it streaming up in the broadcast booth. Didn't mean I could watch it, but when we went to intermissions and when there was time, I looked in, and Seattle put on some effort, some pressure in the third period, and that allowed Quebec to go back the other way in some odd man rushes. But look, Quebec proved that they're the best team in the country. They beat everybody in this tournament. They beat Seattle twice, and I feel like for the first time, there wasn't really any upsets. I feel like the tournament ended up how it's supposed to. I mean, you had the top 2 teams in the country playing for the Memorial Cup. And you can take Kamloops and Peterborough and make them 3-4 in whichever order you want. But I think for sure they got it right.
Quebec won. And they're partying there. They had a watch party outside Videotron Arena, the 19,000-seat home of the junior hockey team. So I enjoyed it. And as is in my commentary today, it's a little bittersweet when I see them hand out the Memorial Cup every year, because it just means one more chapter's closing of the hockey season. But what a hockey season it was, not just in there, but Connor Bedard and all the great things he did, which brings me to point 4. The Vegas Golden Knights, who snapped the Florida Panthers' 8-game road winning streak with a 5-2 win in Saturday's Stanley Cup final opener, will be looking to grab a 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 series when the teams tangled tonight at Game 2 at T-Mobile Arena. Interesting. I don't know how much I thought it was 6-2 Saturday night. It doesn't matter. It was a lopsided Vegas victory in Game 1. So now we're settling in, and we welcome all the hockey fans. That's what you came for. We'll get to the pro football later. Listen, I could sit here for a long time and talk. I talked to the Panthers, some of the Panthers people this morning, Darren, by the way. I didn't tell you this. They said the Golden Knights are the best team they've faced in these playoffs, right? So basically I said the obligatory good luck. And they're like, well, it's going to be tough. They said this is the deepest, toughest team that we played yet. But hey, what do we think? That brings about the poll question today. Who do you think will win Game 2 tonight? Key Auto Group brings you the poll question when it's time to transition into the world of electrified vehicles. The all-new Nero Hybrid is the perfect first step. Call Key Yorkton Kia at 306-783-2772 or go to keyyorktonkia.com for more information. The 23 Kia Niro movement that inspires. I'll say Vegas because why not? Darren, Florida had 10 days off. They didn't show any rust Saturday night. They scored first. They played a good 40-minute game. They scored with under 10 seconds to go, I believe, in the second period, which tells me they were focused in that final minute of the second period. But in the third, the wheels fell off. They hit 2 goalposts in the opening 2 periods. They nicked Cousins when he got robbed by Aiden Hill in the second period, when he reached back with a paddle of the stick. Those were goals they scored in the prior 3 rounds. So the Cinderella story, Team of Destiny Panthers didn't show up in Game 1. Do you think they do tonight?
Yeah, I do. I think they bounce back. I think, what we've seen from this team is if they do lose a game, they seem to bounce right back. And I think, this is kind of okay, we're in the Stanley Cup final. Okay, this is the best team that's left. We need to have our best. And, yeah, we're used to winning all the time, and maybe winning's become easy, even though it's not. So, yeah, I think they'll be ready. I think Florida wins game 2. I really do.
Checking in, the text line's open. 902-518-3033 is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. 902-518-3033. Jim Wagner in Balgonia writes in and says, "Morning, crew. Showing up late for the show? Oh, no. Unacceptable. Have a beautiful day, all." Listen, whether it's right or not, it's what the analytics show. People aren't there right at 10 a.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Eastern every day. It's a couple minutes in. So those first few topics might just be throwaway, and we get here into the meat onto the bone. Back to the Florida thing. What the U.S. people don't understand, and I understand at my advanced age, we're never going to educate them into this stuff, but they need to know that junior hockey and the NHL are interwoven. Like bread and butter, peas and carrots, right? Like, for instance, Connor Bedard's going to be at the game tonight. I was reading this in the game notes. It's in the game notes that Connor Bedard and about 5 of the top prospects for the draft are going to be in T-Mobile Ball Arena tonight for an upper deck hockey card thingamabob. So it's a really big night. And I was starting to think, God dagnabbit, maybe I should have gone. But this is my last week in Florida, and then I'm going back to Canada for the summer, which is another thing. We're probably going to do a live show. I believe now we can announce a live show Wednesday at the Beach House. Shouldn't affect the guests that you lined up, Clark, but we are going to have Bill Lindsay down from the Panthers radio broadcast crew. The Golden Girl Serena is going to be there. And I invited Jeff Chikrin to be there, the Ottawa product and longtime NHLer, who's currently on the Panthers television. He's an analyst. But I texted him, Darren, and I said, "Hey, Chick, can you come down to the Beach House on Wednesday?" He goes, "I'm currently in the car on the way back to Ottawa for the summer. So if I could be there, I would." But that's what a lot of Florida people do, Moose. They go north for the summer. How about that? So Jeff Chikrin isn't going to be around, but we will have some hockey people on Wednesday for our show live from the Beach House. And interestingly enough, the poll results so far, and Clark, I'll have you have a look on YouTube what it is. I looked on Twitter. It's like 53% saying yes, Florida will win tonight. 47% saying no, Vegas will win tonight. I'm guessing the YouTube vote is somewhat similar to that. Yeah, 50-50 bang on, Clark says. Who wins game 2 tonight? It's very tough to predict, but what the people don't understand, I don't think, Darren, is I saw this on ESPN Sports Center this morning, and you might have seen this stat on the Canadian channels. The team that goes up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup final is 48-5 in the last 53 Stanley Cup finals. If you go up 2-0, you're 48-5. I don't know. You tell me what you think about that, because this is what I think. Well, the Panthers only pulled off the biggest upset in NHL history in round 1. They'd never swept anybody before. They did that in the conference final. They're knocking off, bing, bing, all these firsts. So why would history matter now? The teams that go up 2-0 are 48-5 all the time. That was probably what Paul Maurice should be telling his players. That's why I don't think history matters. It's fun to talk about, but it's not a predictor of the future in sports. Change my mind.
Well, I think, over time, I think the history does, show you how tough it is when you go down 2-0. Meaning, if you bet on the team that's up 2-0, 50 times, 45 times you're going to win. 5 times you're going to lose. But if I'm the Panthers, it's not like it's 50-0, okay? There's 5 teams who have done it. Why not be the 6th? It's possible. Away you go. In the NBA, it's a little different when you go down 3-0. It's never happened in the NBA. Almost happened by the Boston Celtics, but it still hasn't happened. So it's a real hole to go down 2-0. It's not impossible, but it's really difficult.
God, the trolls are out. I'm just reading some of the comments, and I'm not going to get to all of them. They're rude.
Uh-oh.
We have less than a minute left in this segment of the warm-up. People are asking about the CFL trade. We have a trade. Yeah, we did. It happened. Guys writing in asking me if it happened. I'm like, well, you know that it happened, so why are you asking me? We'll get to that. They want to talk about the NLL. Darren, do you want to handle it, or should I handle it?
You're good. You got it.
We'll do the talking. You all do the watching or the listening. That's how it goes here. We're going to take a timeout and be back with the Toronto Blue Jays. A sports update. Week 1 in the CFL. Some big cuts were made. We'll talk about tonight's sports schedule and a whole lot more. We'll return in a moment. We have returned to Game Plus Television. We've got some nice text messages that have come in there. We're also live on WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Nice work. Nice work, Director Jordan. A look at T-Mobile Arena. Game 2 tonight of the Stanley Cup Final going right there, 8 p.m. Eastern. The Golden Knights up 1-0 on the Florida Panthers. Before we bring in the Moose back in from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, a sports update and breaking news today. The BC Lions announced the team has acquired a conditional pick in the 2024 CFL draft from the Hamilton Tiger Cats in exchange for national defensive lineman Jonathan Kongbo. That's Canadian defensive lineman Jonathan Kongbo. He was signed by BC partway through training camp before suiting up in the preseason win over Calgary June 1st. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bandits crushed the Colorado Mammoth 13-4 Saturday night to win the best-of-3 National Lacrosse Championship Series in 3 games. It was the Bandits' first title since 2008 and their 5th in franchise history. And Connor Bedard, or as my friend Chris from the Bronx says, Connor Bedard of North Vancouver, made Canadian Hockey League history Saturday night by winning the CHL Top Prospect, Top Scorer, and Player of the Year award. Bedard, expected to go number 1 in the NHL draft later this month, had 143 points in 143 points in 57 regular season games for God's team, the Regina Pats, this season. Olin Zellweger of the Kamloops Blazers was named top defenseman. Nathan Darvo of the Victoriaville Tigre claimed goalie of the year. We can bring the Moose back in. Sports Update is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. And if I may, I didn't write this down in my topics, but Moose, in theaters, June 23rd, The Flash. Hang on. There's a word from Landmark Cinemas. Worlds collide in The Flash when Barry uses his superpowers to travel back in time in order to change the events of the past. But when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, Barry becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod has returned, threatening annihilation. And there are no superheroes to turn to. All right. Is the Moose with us? Do we have him? There he is from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle. Sounds like a great movie. I had one thing I wanted to talk about is streaming. Streaming. Do yourself a favor. Do not watch on Netflix or Hulu or whatever these streams are, the show The Girl in the Basement. Have you heard about it?
No. Tell me more.
Just don't watch it. The Girl in the Basement. It's a guy who locks his 17-year-old daughter in the basement for 20 years. And I don't want to say much. I don't want to say anymore. It's horrible. I was dreaming about it last night. Don't watch it. The Girl in the Basement. Highly upsetting. I said to the Golden Girl, this is the second most disturbing show I've ever watched in my life. And she didn't watch. She didn't even ask me what the first was. But don't watch it. What?
Dahmer?
2009 Grey Cup?
Oh.
No. No. The movie Human Trafficking was horrible. Horrible. Rob Anderson writes in. He says, good morning, Rod. Why was Congo traded to Hamilton? How the hell would I know? I appreciate the question. I don't know why the BC Lions are trading people. I'm glad that you think I might know, but I don't know. Dougal Cameron checks in. He's watching in Calgary. He said on the 902 line, he says, I'm pulling for Vegas as the goalie is a Calgary kid. He looked pretty good in game 1. Go Vegas. Yeah, it's going to be a good one tonight. The poll question here says it's about 50-50 with regards to who's going to win tonight. Let me just continue with the topics, and then I'll jump into the CFL Week 1 with a reminder that I said we were going to save that till Week 2, but I don't know. A lot of times the plans that I make go right in the ditch. The viewers just take over. The inmates run the asylum on this show on a daily basis, Moose, as you know. And it was Darren who said, well, you can plan for hockey in hour 1 and football in hour 2, but if people want to talk more hockey, let them talk more hockey. He's the boss. But point 5, the Toronto Blue Jays, fresh off a 3-game series sweep of the hosting New York Mets, open a 4-game homestand tonight against the Houston Astros. Righty Alec Manoah will be on the mound for Toronto as the Jays look to win their 5th straight game. The Astros will counter with righty Brandon Bielak. I should mention this. I watched a lot of Blue Jays baseball this weekend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not just because they swept, but now they've won 4 in a row, and we've got Blue Jays podcaster Craig Ballard coming up. What'd they lose, 5 in a row here a while back, and everybody wanted to fire everybody, and John Schneider's in trouble. I just can't do it. I can't. I mean, I do surf Twitter to see what people are saying, but I don't let any of it sink in anymore, ever. Like, don't try and have a debate with me on this stuff, because I won't listen to you. Do you remember in the fall? What did I tell you the hockey fans here in South Florida were saying at Paul Maurice? They're like, who is this guy? He's never won anything. And I'm like, yeah, but why? Just let him prove himself. And now they want to give him a 10-year contract. Like, it's a lot, right? I don't know. Do you listen to people or do you not?
To a point. I think you can listen to them to a point, but that's it. I mean, the nature of the world is to overreact, right? Overreact in the short term for success, overreact in the short term when things aren't going your way. You have to have some patience, and you have to be willing to look at the big picture. And I think, so, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, I think, when you listen to people's reactions, especially on social.
Especially on social, but even there were people yelling, fire Maurice in the crowd at Panthers games because they weren't that great up until like February. And it's you just can't. On the flip side, they were booing the Flames in October in the Saddle Dome. I remember that well. And I remember saying to the other media people, I think they're booing them down there. And they're like, no, you're hearing things. Turns out I wasn't. John Ohm, tell me if this is working again, because last week we were streaming only and the gong, you couldn't hear it. You got it? How's that?
Nice.
Yeah? John Ohm says, how soon can we get a Rod's rant? They're working up to it. They're getting damn close here. I'll just continue with my points, Darren, and then we'll see where it goes from there. It is week 1 in the Canadian Football League, and I wanted to bring up Bet Regal's betting lines. I guess we're going to play a very early deal or no deal. I'm not even going to ask you yet. We'll save that for later in the week. What do we do that? Like Wednesdays? Deal or no deal in the CFL? But these are the betting lines. Thursday night, the BC Lions are at the Calgary Stampeders. I'm not even going to be that big of a jerk and ask you what you would set as the betting line, because I know you're not following the CFL at this time that closely. You just got out of the broadcast booth for the World Paralympic Hockey broadcast, so I get it. The Calgary Stampeders are favored by 3.5 at home over the BC Lions Thursday night at McMahon Stadium. How do you feel about that? Jake Mayer did not play at quarterback for Calgary last week in the preseason finale. Calgary at home by 3.5 over BC. Sounds about right. What do you think?
Yeah. It does sound about right. I think it also tells you not what the odds makers think of Vernon Adams Jr., but more what they think of Nathan Rourke. And they expect the BC Lions to take a step back without Nathan Rourke. So I don't hate the betting line, but I think Vernon Adams Jr. is going to have a chip on his shoulder and something to prove all year.
I was going to say every week he'll have that. But Thursday night football, Calgary home to BC, Stamps favored by 3.5. Friday night football, Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats go into Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers favored by 4.5 at home. The Blue Bombers coming off a season in which they led the Canadian Football League in attendance for the first time ever. Bombers favored by 4.5 over Hamilton. Quote John Frenzy here, the Hall of Fame broadcaster of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Bo really wants to win that one. Like Lynch says that all the time, right? I'm like, Lynch, they all want to win it. They all want to win every game. But they really want to win, is the way John would say. Could just see it. Can't you talking about this game?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Is there a chance of an upset there Friday night, Hamilton at Winnipeg?
There is. All these spreads, I think, are going to be a little closer early in the year when we really don't know what each team is yet, right? They're always, trying to figure these teams out. So this might be the biggest spread that you see throughout the week. I'm not sure. I'm guessing. I haven't looked ahead to see what the rest of the spreads are. But that's just because of Winnipeg. It's not because of Hamilton. It's because of who the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are and still the class of the league.
John Ohm, who, by the way, was the rock star of the day on Friday's show, so we'll be getting him a hat to cover that green hair from the Rod Pedersen show. Hold me to it, John. We'll get it to you. John says, what are the betting odds that Dupe's background is real or not? Undisclosed location. All right?
Yes.
I got to stay out of the comments. Background is real, as is Darren's hair. Saturday football, Ottawa Red Blacks at the Montreal Alouettes. My guy, Cody Fajardo, who I thought looked very sharp Friday night. I can't believe that we haven't been on the air since all these things went down over the weekend. The Stanley Cup final, the CFL games, the Blue Jays sweeping the Mets. And Cody Fajardo looking great, leading Montreal to a home win over Ottawa. Montreal favored by 1.5 on Saturday. I think they will give Ottawa a shabackling on Saturday. What do you think is going to go down at McGill?
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that, Ottawa probably favored in the game. Probably should be favored in the game. Montreal is picked by most prognosticators, betting, sports books to finish last or second last. So I like Cody with a chip on his shoulder too. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to save it for Deal or No Deal later in the week, but that'll be a fun one to pick.
Still don't know if Jeremiah Masoli will start at quarterback for Ottawa or not. The fact that it's a question at all, you can thank Garrett Marino for that. And then Sunday, it all winds up at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. I will be there with Kevin the Medium together, courtesy of the Edmonton Elks. Sask, the only road team favored in week 1 in the Canadian Football League, 2.5 at the Edmonton Elks. It's funny, I wrote in the commentary this morning, is this a trap game? Ryan from Alberta wrote and said, for who? They both suck. I'm like, noted. 2.5 point favorites, Riders at Edmonton. You taking that?
Yeah. I like the preseason that the Riders put together. I think that has people excited. I think that's why the betting lines are skewed that way. I think Edmonton is still working their way and trying to figure out what they are. And I like Trevor Harris in the preseason. I thought he looked sharp. He didn't see a lot of action, but I think they're ready to go. So yeah, I don't hate that.
He had like one series, but Randy from the Peg writes in and says, Grey Cup preview Friday night. That's Hamilton and Winnipeg he's talking about. I said the same last week. Brian in Hudson's Bay, Saskatchewan writes in, the home of Trent Yanni and Glenn Gulletson and Craig Adam. It's the moose capital of the world. Brian says, hey, Rod, just tuned in. Where do you have the Riders? I got them in 4th or even 5th with 7 or 8 wins. Hope I'm wrong. I have them in the exact same spot as you, Brian. And our odds maker or our exclusive betting partner, Bet Regal, has them 8th overall in the Canadian Football League in their power rankings right now. Moose, when you come back in hour 2, we'll be talking gosh knows what, but these are some things I do want to talk about. Mike Babcock going to the Columbus Blue Jacket. Patrick Waugh going to we don't know where, but I think it's the New York Rangers. Who's going to be the next coach of the Flames? Gary Bettman says the NHL remains committed to Arizona. We're still going to kick around why. And I want you to put some thought in this. I know, right? What's the toughest division in the National Football League? What's the toughest division in the National Football League? Those are all some points for hour 2. But when we come back, Craig Ballard joins us from the Locked On Blue Jays podcast. We're live on the Game Plus television network. Also WQEE Radio in Atlanta. Podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Live look in T-Mobile Arena, the site of Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern is the time. The Vegas Golden Knights up 1-0 over the Florida Panthers as we broadcast from South Florida here on Game Plus and WQEE. The Toronto Blue Jays won their 4th consecutive game Sunday when Brandon Belt hit a 2-run homer in the 7th inning to snap a 4-4 tie, allowing the visitors to complete a 3-game sweep of the New York Mets. Vladdy also went deep for the Jays, who have won 6 of 7. They're home to Houston tonight. Craig Ballard joins us from the LockedOn Blue Jays podcast. And Craig, I appreciate the time. It's always fun talking Blue Jays, especially on a 4-game win streak. If you don't mind, if I can start here, how would you characterize or describe this Blue Jays season to this point here in the first week of June?
Wow, Rod, thanks for having me on. Longtime admirer of the show. Longtime admirer, Rod, of your crew. I know some of the people you got working with you. I know it's a great crew as well, so I wanted to shout that out.
Oh, yeah.
And absolutely thrilled.
Thank you.
Yeah, talking baseball. Absolutely. Thank you. The season so far, boy, 33-27, a little over 100 games left. You know, have spent time in last place, currently in 4th place. My point being, there's a lot, but just on the surface, you may be a little underwhelmed with if you're a Toronto Blue Jay fan, and I do get that. What I would say is, and everydayers from the Locked On Blue Jay podcast will know, we've deep dived this schedule ad nauseum, Rod. Okay. And the first half of this season, first half of the schedule in the season for the Toronto Blue Jays this season, they call it a bear. I mean, holy moly. So just to be a little bit above treading water, because the rest of the American League East isn't going to sit around and wait for the schedule to loosen up for the Toronto Blue Jays, right? We've seen how good this division is. So just the fact that the Blue Jays are very much involved in this race right now, because the schedule in the second half of the season is massively in favor of the Toronto Blue Jays. So even if they're going to this, and after the All-Star break, even if they're a little bit behind a playoff spot, there's a definite run to be made. The key, Rod, is to just not get, so far in the weeds, not let the schedule overwhelm you and get too far behind. We saw that in 2021. Blue Jays were incredible. They were the best team in baseball the last month and a half of the season. Missed out on the playoffs because too much had gone wonky previous to that, right? Had dug too much of a hole. And that landscape in 2021 was nothing like what we're seeing this season in the American League East. So just the fact that the Blue Jays are around and involved in this race right now, Rod, I'm actually pretty happy about where things have started.
Well, they're entertaining to watch, and for me, that's enough. But I know for the hardcores like yourself, it's not. You want to see them winning the division and contending. But I got to ask you, I've been around sports a long time, and when you see a streaky team, you could either call them streaky or you could call them consistent. 4-game win streak here, winners of 6 and 7. However, when they went on a losing streak, which included being swept at Boston, which didn't help. How would you characterize the team in that regard? They go on long win streaks, but long losing streaks. That's not a consistent team.
I would definitely say inconsistency is an issue in particular. I mean, the reason for the bald head, Rod, is the inconsistency with hitting with runners in scoring position. That is an issue that is. This is a brand new roster. It hasn't mattered. 2021, 22, 23, you name it, the Toronto Blue Jay team. When they get in trouble, they don't hit well at all with runners in scoring position. They morph into too much of a home run or bust, a pull or bust. So that's long been my contention with this team, is the situational hitting. And if there's one thing that just screams inconsistency, it's that. That's definitely going to have to, shore up as we go further in the season. One guy that came in that I thought that was really going to help with that, and it just hasn't been on display, at least yet, and that was Don Mattingly. I mean, Don Mattingly, Rod, you and I grew up watching Don Mattingly play baseball. He was a machine with runners in scoring positions. Always had the right approach at the plate, always looking to do whatever. His stats be darned. How do I get that runner in? That's the name of the game, is scoring runs. So I really thought he would bring that mental approach to the plate. I just haven't seen it yet from the Toronto Blue Jays. So yes, inconsistent is the way I would describe it. Again, for me, I'm giving the Blue Jays a little bit of leeway because some of the inconsistency, Rod, I think is built in from how tough this schedule has been, to be totally honest with you. But yes, that is the one holdover, that it's never mattered. The regime, the manager, nothing's mattered. The last several years, the Blue Jays hitting with runners in scoring position, inconsistent is very much the word to describe that.
Alek Manoah gets the ball tonight against Houston. Where are you on Alek Manoah and his 2023 season?
Rod, I may be hosting the show if I had a good answer for this, Rod, instead of a guest. Like this is the $1 trillion, not even million. This is the $1 trillion question in Blue Jay land, right? My goodness, I do not know what to make of his 2023. Rod, there's about 3 or 4 really reputable projection systems in the offseason that take all their analytics and things like that, and they project how players will do this upcoming season. Every single one of them had Alek Manoah taking major steps backwards, finishing with an ERA this season in the 4s, so double what we've seen from him before. And every time I read any of them, the first one blew my mind. Then the second one, I'm like, this again? Then the third one, I'm like, you guys are absolutely kidding me. How can we see steps backwards from Alek Manoah? All of his stuff is excellent. Could one pitch, maybe even 2, take a step back? I mean, I guess it's possible, but he's just going to fall flat on his face and none of his pitches are going to be recognizable? No chance. It's happened. It's played out right before our eyes, and I don't have an answer for it. We've heard so many different theories. Is it the pitch clock? Is it this? Is it that? I wish I had a better answer for you right now. The only reason that I don't think it's the pitch clock is because even when he starts out innings, so when he's had nothing but a ton of rest, like there's just been no examples of his pitches being sharp this season, Rod. And I wish I had the answer for what to do with him. A struggling Alek Manoah against an amazing Houston Astros tonight. This is scary tonight, Rod.
Well, we're going to find out maybe tonight what he's made of. But do you think he is – what player is he? Last year's Cy Young finalist or this year's inconsistent pitcher? Which is he, do you think? Or somewhere in between?
That's a great question. I actually don't think it's in between. I think what we saw in 2021 and 2022 is Alek Manoah. Remember, he came up in 2021 not because the Blue Jays said, okay, it's time to make him. No, he had a great spring in 2021, and then they sent him back to the minors for some seasoning. He didn't just knock on the major league door. He kicked down the major league door in 2021 because he was awesome. Yeah. He was awesome and did awesome in 2021 and did awesome in 2022. There are real life things going on with him right now, Rod. Like he's planning a wedding. I don't know if things like this are coming into play, but something is up, right? Something is up that is out of the ordinary. Where, as I said, where I'm so stunned, it's that all of his pitches have taken a step backwards. With Jose Barrios, once he shored up that four-seam fastball, okay, he can be good. Kikuchi, a lot of Jays pitchers have one pitch that if they can shore up, okay, we're in business. Alek Manoah's got a lot of work to do with all of his pitches, so I'm absolutely stunned. Now, he is somebody who I feel like puts in work in the offseason. Again, maybe this offseason was different, planning a wedding and things like that. But going forward, I'll be stunned. If the 2023 Alek Manoah really is who Alek Manoah is on the big league level, I will be absolutely stunned.
We got about a minute left and not enough time to get to all that I would like to, Craig, but let me ask you this. Are they a playoff team? I believe it was this morning I looked, they're 2.5 out of a wild card. Is this a team that had 6 All-Stars last year, playoffs the last few years? Are they in it this year, do you think?
Absolutely. I really don't think there's anything that can happen, Rod, that where the 2023 Toronto Blue Jays are not a playoff team. And that includes, if we don't get Alek Manoah back to being Alek Manoah, way too much talent on this team, way too much depth. Hardly, there's only 2 or 3 players on this team, Rod, who have hit their stride. I mean, we're about to see a lot better Blue Jay baseball going forward. And again, after the All-Star break, the Blue Jays play 70 games. 41 will be at home, and there's a ton of last-place teams on the Blue Jays schedule in the second half. So individually, there's so many players that are going to get a run going. And from a team standpoint, that second half has a lot of winning a lot of wins in there.
Well, you very much have me excited for the second half. Craig, thanks for this. Let's bring you back then, and we'll see where they're at. I appreciate that. I love the setup, very professional looking, and enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks for having me on.
Craig Ballard from the LockedOn Blue Jays podcast on the LockedOn Podcast Network. It's just you and me. Next segment, audience takeover, 902-518-3033. Whatever you'd like to talk about. Moose rejoins in hour 2 to talk about all these topics, but particularly Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Also, Rob Rossi coming up from the Athletic Pittsburgh. We're back live on Game Plus Television today, WQEE Radio, also podcast and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop staffed by PGA of Canada professionals is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Nice shots, Jordan. Nice shots, or whomever's responsible for that. Tonight, Game 2, Stanley Cup Final, Golden Knights home to the Florida Panthers. Checking the poll results, by the way, for Key Auto Group, our daily poll. Key Auto Group has the largest selection of quality new and pre-owned vehicles in the Parkland region. Cars, trucks, SUVs, your journey begins at keyautogroup.ca. 54% of you saying the Florida Panthers will win tonight. You know we're all going to be watching. And I can't wait. And we'll be back here this week, Game 3, Thursday night, FLA Live Arena. Wednesday's show, we'll be previewing that live from the Beach House Pompano with some NHL guests. Hey, the eyes have it. You got to write in. I said this was going to be the audience takeover portion of hour 1. Maybe the whole entire show. What you want to talk about, let me know. Rob Anderson writes in, who I believe is a Ticats fan. I apologize if I got that wrong, but he says, talk about week 1 in the CFL. Well, we already did, bro. We gave you all the point spreads. We previewed the games. What more literally do you want? Jeff, the Stamps fan, wrote in and said, how about some standings predictions? Well, we've done that too, but you want us to do it again? Were you not watching that day? How many times, Clark, have I said it? Winnipeg 1, Calgary 2, BC 3, and get back to me after Sunday night, because Sask said Edmonton Sunday night to open week 1. The winner of that game will get 4th. The loser will finish 5th. That's how big this game is. Jim Barker was talking about it when he was last on with us. Jim Barker, now the CFL on TSN panel. He said this is the game of the week by a mile. Sask at Edmonton Sunday night. And in the East, I've been on record as saying Hamilton first, Toronto second, Montreal third, Ottawa fourth. Would you write it down, please? Thanks. By the way, football fans, Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip hosted by the RP Show in Engelheim. Tickets are available now at rodpeterson.com, and the deadline to reserve your seats is fast approaching. It's charter transportation from Engelheim, June 23rd out of Regina, stopping in Saskatoon, to Calgary and back June 25th, 2-night accommodations at our host hotel, Hotel Cleat Calgary Airport, with complimentary breakfasts, pre- and post-game parties hosted by moi and Saskatchewan alumni, and, of course, a ticket to the Riders and the Stampeders on June 24th. And now, Woody's would like you to bring a friend or a loved one on them to the game. All you got to do is buy an RV at Woody's RV. You're going to do it anyways. And Woody's will buy a ticket, a BOGO, so you can join us on this trip for the game itself if you're in the Calgary area, or a bus trip if you're coming out of Sask. They will ask you to bring your best bud, your kid, your partner. Heck, bring your grandma. Sask, Calgary, those games are always special. John Ohm says, I'm gearing up for Rod's rant. I'm keeping a lid on it. He's really trying. He says, how about some golfer pickleball updates? We had pickleball in all this time slot last week. You should have been paying attention, John. You're not going to get me. Leanne has chimed in. She says, bring Serena on. How about you stop yelling at me? Last minute of play in hour 1. She's a special occasion kind of gal, the Golden Girl. She'll be live with us Wednesday from the Beach House Pompano, along with Bill Lindsay from the Florida Panthers radio crew, the man who scored the biggest goal in Florida Panthers history. Serena will be on, and we are waiting on some other NHL guests. Dentor in Saskatoon writes in, says, Winnipeg, Calgary, Sask, BC, Edmonton. Oh, here we go. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Sask, BC. He's biased. Kevin the Medium says Rod can't be right all the time. He's got Winnipeg, BC, Sask, Calgary, Edmonton. Everybody's down on the Stamps. I don't know what's up with that. Allie, we'll continue it after this brief pause on Game Plus and the Key. Stick around.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Do you believe in sports curses? Mike White, who's supposed to be the next big thing with the Jets, goes down in the first quarter, but they're saying there's got to be a curse on the Jets. And our question to you, the viewers, is do you believe in sports curses? Can't make up my mind whether I believe in them or not. Because on one hand, I say the harder you work, the luckier you get. But on the other hand, I'm very spiritual and believe there's a plan and all the rest, so I don't know.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Man, hi, everybody. That's a toughie, isn't it? Welcome to Hour 2 of the RP Show. And the audience is saying the first hour just flew by. It's the fastest 2 hours in show business. I think we can all agree on that. We have the, I'm in the South Florida studio for this week. This is the last week, and then I'm heading back to Canada for the summer. And I am looking forward to it. I really am. It's home. Darren Moose DuPont is in the NHL's Bermuda Triangle. He joins us here in Hour 2. Hey, Moose. And things really perked up near the end of Hour 1. Things got spicy. Not in a bad way, but I asked for audience participation, and we got it. And we continue that here in Hour 2. Thank you, John Ohm in Winnipeg. He says the fastest and best 2 hours. You already won the Rock Star of the Day last week, John, on Friday, but he's making a run at it today. Yeah, it's all good. But, Moose, I want to say this. You thought it was hot when you were here a couple of weeks ago. I just got a notification from my iPhone that said it will resume charging once the phone cools down. It's 29 degrees Celsius here. That is before humidity. Bear with me. I think I got my phone on. I will never, it's 30 degrees Celsius before humidity, and with humidity, 33. So that's hot. And I will, bear with me, hold me to this. I'm never switching to miles an hour and definitely not switching to Fahrenheit. I will remain a Celsius guy for the rest of my life, even though I plan to be here. Regarding the hockey tonight, people have been writing in the poll. They've been voting on the poll. The poll question for Key Auto Group is, who do you think will win Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight? It's in Vegas. Golden Knights home to the Florida Panthers. It's around 50-50. Allie in Texarkana writes in. She says, I get that notice all the time, except in the dead of winter. LOL. Well, I don't know what it is. The camera that Moose was on when he was here, out here on our set, out here in the Line A, what do you say? It decombusted. It combusted. It decombusted. It imploded.
Yeah.
But this laptop and camera that I'm on, this sucker would work in Baghdad, I think. It's good. Yeah. And I don't want to jinx that either. Let me just slow this down. It's Hour 2 where my mind just went down 67 different roads. Back to the hockey game tonight. I voted for Vegas to win because I want Florida to win. What did you voted for Florida to win tonight? I can't remember.
I did, yes.
Okay. So we'll get to whatever anybody else wants to talk about. 902-518-3033. But I needed to rein the horses back in here on the Chucks, Moose. I had to rein them back in. Rod, it's the Rod Pedersen Show. What do you want to talk about? Well, I do want to talk about the Stanley Cup and this. I feel like I didn't really succinctly get this out last hour. What we saw, and you didn't call games Saturday night, did you? Were you broadcasting hockey Saturday night? Or were you watching Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final? You were? Okay, yeah. Did you see Game 1 of the Stanley Cup?
Only the highlights and the extended replay.
Well, that's not really watching it, right?
Of course not.
They weren't the same Florida Panthers as we had become accustomed to. This is quite interesting. Before we get on to whatever everybody else would like to discuss today, Paul Maurice sat at the podium, the head coach of the Florida Panthers, and basically calmed everybody down. He wasn't upset at all. He was like, did you see the clip? He was like, everybody just breathe. I think he dropped an F-bomb at the microphone. And when you get your team all the way to the Stanley Cup, you can drop F-bombs, apparently, because Pomo did. But everybody was all worked up, and Pomo said, we weren't good in Game 1 against Boston. And they weren't. For those that weren't watching earlier last hour, I said I talked to Panthers people today, and they are like, whoa, we're going to need your good luck tonight because Vegas is the best team that we played yet. Jason and Red Deer wrote in and said, it's almost like Vegas was number 1 in the West. Right? So I don't know where Florida's head is. I do not regret not going to Vegas, but I had friends sending me photos from the pool. They're like, there's still time to get here. They're like dangling it in front of me, and I'm like, I plan to be going to the Stanley Cup final for the rest of my life. This is the first one that I've ever been able to cover in person. I'm quite excited to be able to go to the games here in Florida, but it is also my last week in Florida, and I don't want to be traipsing all over America in my last week if I don't have to be. That's number one. Number two, I've been to Vegas many times, as have you, Darren. Kevin, the medium, our sales coordinator, has told me the World Series of Poker is going on there right now. Like, it's busy in Vegas all the time, but it's extra level busy. My good friend Mike Davis is the head coach of the indoor football league team there, the Las Vegas Nighthawks. They played Saturday afternoon against the Tulsa Sugar Skulls. Saturday afternoon, which, by the way, Tulsa won the game 42-41. I'm following it, Mike.
What a name.
The Sugar Skulls. Exactly. And I just want to chill here in South Florida because it is my last week. And then this upcoming weekend, I don't even want to tell you. You talk about traipsing. I don't even know what the Google definition is for traipsing. John Ohm in Winnipeg, you're the Google guy. You want to look up the definition of traipse? Because that's what I'm going to be doing. Flying through 3-4 provinces, corporate speaking at a couple of locales, going to a CFL game. I'm going to Toronto. I can't. Even thinking about it's making my guts bubble. So to think about going to Vegas this week for the Stanley Cup final, knowing I would already be able to watch games here, no, I just didn't really want to do it. I promised that we would talk about Mike Babcock going to Columbus, and you are the Leaf fan in this discussion. Mike Babcock, we find, coming out of the Memorial Cup, is going to be the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Darren, we could spend 2 hours on that. I'm a friend of Mike Babcock's, clearly. His first interview since being fired by the Toronto Maple Leafs was this show 2 years after the fact. But I'm not sure I'm hiring Mike Babcock to coach my team, and that's nothing against Babs. I'm an old school guy, just like him. I have a tough time relating to younger people. I really do, without screaming at them. That's Babs' thing. He couldn't get Mitch Marner to drop his balls, as they say, figuratively. Nor could Sheldon Keefe. What makes you think Mike Babcock is going to? And when I say that, I know that's going to be offensive to some people, but everybody says Mitch Marner is soft. Whatever the keys are to get Mitch Marner playing, Babcock couldn't do it. He's going to in Columbus? Makes no sense to me. You?
Yeah, on the surface, I'm not a big fan of the hiring just because the track record, right? And we don't really know how things went, when he went to the U of S either. But I've you hear from some people that maybe it's not quite, hasn't really changed a whole lot. But I'm not in the hiring room, right? And so for me, you need to see a coach grow and evolve and change a little bit and adapt. And if Mike's done that, we've seen Mike. You and I have seen Mike Babcock. He's a good person at the end of the day. And we've seen the good Mike Babcock. And the good Mike Babcock is great. He's a great coach, good communicator, trust, loyalty, all the respect, all those great traits. But there's the bad Mike Babcock we've seen, right? So if you get the good Mike Babcock in Columbus, this can be a great hire. It really can. So we'll see where Mike Babcock's at. I think if he's coming back into the league, and going to get hired by somebody, I think we need to give him a chance to show everybody that he's grown and adapted and become a better coach. If he hasn't, he won't last very long.
I appreciate the audience participation today on this. Ryan, watching in Saratoga, New York, says, "Good day, Rod Squad. Traipse, to walk or move warily or reluctantly." Well, in that case, I think my mom was using it wrong, because I'm not reluctantly traipsing all over Canada beginning Friday. I'm excited to do it, but I'm going to be in several provinces I'll be grinding, but not reluctantly, but I'll be putting some miles on. So maybe I should stop using the term traipse, because I don't do anything reluctantly. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just quoting my mom. Good point by Leanne. She says, not many top free agents will sign in Columbus. Man, Babs does have a really bad reputation. When you think about, obviously, what Mike Commodore said about him, what he allegedly did with Mike Modano, scratching him so he was stuck on 1,499 games. Again, I don't have an issue with Mike Babcock at all. We've been friends since the 90s. I don't. I'm just saying, did we not see with the firing of Darryl Sutter and some of these other coaches that type of coach is done? I'm very curious. Well, mind you, where did Columbus finish last year? 31st in the league. I'm not sure that Columbus knows what they're doing anyways. Jeff, the Stamps fans brought up a really good point, and I'll get to that in a second. John Ohm says, Mike Babcock is the CFL version of Chris Jones. I think you mean the NHL version of Chris Jones. No, the players love Chris Jones. The players love Chris Jones. They don't love Mike Babcock. They're not even close at all. But Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, watching all those Nevadans and Floridians enjoying Game 1 on Saturday makes me feel the game of hockey has been stolen from us. 1:11 Eastern, by the way, 11:11 Mountain. So while we pause, I encourage you to visualize a positive outcome of whatever situation you're in. To Leanne in the audience, can we make a note of this, what Jeff just said? Because this is one of the Golden Girls' favorite topics, Serena, has the United States stolen the game of hockey from Canadians? I don't know that I have the energy for this discussion, because we talk about it a lot here. If we didn't want to lend the game of hockey to America, why did we trade Wayne Gretzky in 1988 to the Los Angeles Kings? Why did we expand in 1993 to the southern markets? And is it ours or is it not ours? What do we want? Can you pick one? Hockey Canada's slogan for years and years is what? It's our game? Is it? I thought we were trying to grow the game. This isn't up to me. I'm the talk show host sitting here standing on the yak box, yakking it up every day. I don't know. Can you decide what you want and get back to me? Do we want television ratings and sold-out arenas and merchandise sales and be a major league? Or do we want to be the little one and play small? What do we want? You, Darren, what do you think?
Well, you want to grow the game across the world. I think that's the goal. I think Canada still wants to be the best at it and prove that, it is our game. But the more you're going to expand, the more teams are going to get better, countries are going to get better. There's going to be more interest. And you know what? There's countries like the USA that just by default are bigger. And if they love hockey, there's not a lot we can do about it except continue to just play well and develop players and get back to loving the game. It's a good thing. Well, it's a good thing. You don't want to be the only team that's good at hockey.
What's the mentality here? Is it like the Canadian Football League fans and people that didn't want to see Nathan Rourke sign in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're too selfish and wanted to keep him for the league? What are we doing here? I'm all for expanding the NHL because look where I'm sitting here in South Florida. There's an NHL rink 27 miles from my house, and I'm going to Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Thursday night. Clearly, I'm all for this. And frankly, always have been. Leanne says, lots of Canadians playing on American teams. The NHL wouldn't survive without Canadian hockey players. Who's saying they're trying to? Like, what exactly are we arguing here right now? I don't understand. Everybody wants what they can't have. That's what we're talking about. Ryan Getzlaff, who I've known since he was 15, we just did that event last month together, and it's wild. The guy gets to play in Anaheim, make $10 million a year. He makes double what the entire team makes that his brother plays for in the Canadian Football League. And I thought Ryan was, and he's a great guy, but I thought he was really grateful for winning a Stanley Cup in Anaheim in 2007, Olympic gold in 2010 and 2014, and all these things. And I say in the interview, Ryan, is there any regrets? I really would have liked to play for a Canadian team because I did more media in 1 week going through Ontario than I would do all season in Anaheim. I'm like, what? Then you got these players on the Canadian teams bitching that they have no privacy. Matthew Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau. Like, my God, can we just sit back and watch the hockey and stop bitching? Or not? We'll take a timeout and be back with more. It's a good one, Moose. It's a good one.
Everybody wants what they can't have.
I knew it would be. Everybody wants what they can't have. Straight-haired girls want curl. Blue eyes want to be blonde. Who sang it?
Oh.
Sarah Evans.
Dolly Parton? Oh.
No, she sang 9 to 5.
I know.
And she says it cost a lot to look this cheap. That's a Dolly Parton line. It's episode number 1013 of your favorite daytime sports talk show here on Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Live look in T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. The place to be tonight. Game 2, Stanley Cup Final, hotly anticipated. Vegas going to go up 2-0, or is Florida going to tie at 8 p.m. Eastern is puck drop. Before we bring the Moose back in from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, a sports update. Special teams proved to be the difference Sunday night as the USA scored 2 shorthanded goals en route to a 6-4 victory over Canada in the World Para Hockey Championship gold medal game in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Cheshire edged China 3-2 to claim the bronze. The Toronto Blue Jays, fresh off a 3-game series sweep of the New York Mets, open a 4-game homestand tonight against the Houston Astros at Rogers Center. Alec Manoah on the mound as the Jays look for their 5th straight win. And Gabe Vincent scored 23 points. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo each had 21 in the visiting Miami Heat. Evened up the NBA Finals at a game each. The score was 111-108 Sunday night in Denver. Game 3 down here in Miami on Wednesday. Sports update is for Landmark Cinemas in theaters June 9th. Transformer: Rise of the Beasts. If you'd like to join the discussion on the most interactive show on television and radio, the way to do it, 902-518-3033. Or if you're watching on the streaming and YouTube, you can join the chat there. The Moose is with us. Darren Moose DuPont. There are only 2 games on the sports schedule tonight. I mentioned the Stanley Cup, Game 2, Florida at Vegas, 1-0 Vegas. Major League Baseball tonight, I just said it, Blue Jays home to the Houston Astros. Jays 33-27. 4th of the American League East. My last thing, just on the expansion and the growth, I don't understand anybody who wants to remain small. I don't get it at all. And part of the reason I say that is a lot of the young broadcasters, maybe even not so young anymore, but people that you and I both know, Joey Slattery is an example of a guy who's CTV, Saskatoon, right? Joey Slattery for years. I saw him saying that he was a broadcast first for him, doing the sidelines for the Winnipeg Sea Bears broadcast the other night of the Canadian Elite Basketball League. And that's what I do not understand with the like, it's just a mindset. I'm not saying I'm right and that Jeff the Stamps fan's wrong, but more teams, more jobs, more opportunities, more money. It's all great, as opposed to America stole our game. Why would we want to expand in the CFL? Why would we want to double our teams and partner with the XFL? Why? Clearly, I don't know anything, so I'll just stay over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. It's a mindset thing. But look, I don't want to get into this. I don't want to get into politics. That's where my mind wants to go. There's some people who want just very simple, controlled, being taken care of. Know where you're going to go every day. Know how much you're going to get paid. Know how much everything's going to cost, and that's all great. Very simple. You know exactly what you're going to get. And other people want a little more uncertainty, but a chance to go out and get their own and make it for themselves and grow, right? I mean, both are good, right? High risk, high chance of failure, right? Safe versus risky. Everybody's a little different. But when it comes to business and sports, I think you have to, you're only going to grow and get better and be bigger and continue to prosper and thrive if you're willing to take risks and look outside your own walls.
Chad in Winnipeg says people just like to complain. Always. I know. And I'm going to get off this topic because I don't have the time for the people's complaining. Other than to say, Ali in Texarkana says, per the Google, it says around 485 of the 1,123 active NHL players are Canadian. So the way I see it, we don't have hockey without my Canadian friends. Nobody's arguing that at all. I'm just saying, can we have teams in the U.S. Sunbelt? Because I don't like to be cold. And we can play hockey down here, too. Which reminds me, I went to the, I told you, the minor hockey game, the league final for the Bantams. I don't know. Apparently that's offensive, the term Bantam now. I know you can't say midget anymore. But with 50 seconds to go, our friend's kids' team was down a goal. They're bringing the puck out of their zone. And all of a sudden, the coach leans over, puts his foot on the bench and starts going, timeout, timeout, as the play's moving up ice. The ref blows the play down. I'm in the crowd going, what the hell's going on? I still don't know what was going on. Everybody stopped. Even the ref had his hands up like this. After the game, Danny, that's the kid, we were standing in the hallway outside the dressing rooms. I'm like, Danny, what the hell was going on? How do you call a timeout in the middle of the game? He goes, well, they wanted to stop the play and put our best players on because we were coming up the ice trying to tie the game. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. This isn't basketball.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, we have our own rules in this league. I said, clearly. I don't get it. But anyways, I don't think we're ever going to lose. I don't think we're ever going to lose the game, so can we share it? How about that? How the hell did I said I didn't want to do this. John says the CFL needs a major refresh to attract new fans. What that refresh could be is expansion. Yeah, but they don't want to change. So, back to some of these other topics here. We mentioned Babcock to Columbus. Where do you think Patrick Waugh is going to go? And I know you were in the broadcast booth last night for the Paralympic final. But, yeah, we're following the Memorial Cup championship. And initially I thought Patrick Roy, who was the all-time leader in the NHL for wins by a goalie for years till Martin Brodeur broke it, I thought he looked fat with that beard until they did a whole body thing. I'm like, hey, he's in shape. It's just the beard.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say too much. I don't want to out anybody. But as of Saturday, the word I got was Patrick Waugh did not have a landing spot in the National Hockey League yet as head coach. Babcock going to Columbus. Greg Cronin going to Anaheim. We've just learned that this morning. The jobs are drying up. I still kind of think that Patrick Waugh will be going to the New York Rangers. But any thoughts on King Roy leaving the CHL?
That was my thought. That question was asked to me yesterday at the hockey rink. You know, where do you think Patrick Roy will go? And I looked around, trying to think. I'm like, wow, geez. Babcock's going to Columbus. At that point, Anaheim's coaching vacancy was still open, and I didn't think he'd go to Anaheim. So I thought he'd go to the Blue Shirts. I thought he'd go to New York too, and I'll stick with that. I'm trying to think of where else would be a good fit, what else is available. But maybe he goes to the Rangers. I think Patrick Waugh is a guy who can handle the bright lights. I think he's a big name, so I think people will recognize that name, be excited about it. He's proven he knows how to coach, at least the kids, the young players, because of the success he has in junior and winning a Memorial Cup soundly. So I think he can relate to today's young player. So why not give him a shot with a really good team in New York?
I really, really, really love Patrick Waugh. That's probably not a shock to anybody. And to be honest, my math is bad, but he's like 50. My math's really bad, but I got him like 58 years old, or he'll be 58 in October. And my respect level is 1,029 NHL games. That's a lot for a goalie. Career 2.54 goals against average. But a living Hall of Famer, obviously. Won the William M. Jennings Trophy. That's for best goals against by a tandem. goaltender duo, 1987, 88, 89, 92, 2002. Okay, let's just stop for a moment and recognize the excellence of Patrick Roy. 2 Stanley Cups, as we all know, in 86 and 93. And I must have forgotten this. He won the NHL Coach of the Year award in 2014. Please tell me how many guys can honestly say they won the Coach of the Year and the Vezina. Not too damn many. He's probably the only one. And probably what I respect the most, because I can't ride the bus anymore. Near the end of my time, which incidentally, I left the Dub when I was 36. I was your age pretty much when I left, Darren, if my math's correct. Yeah, right around there. I saw that this was going to be Roy's second Memorial Cup title, and I'm like, damn, he hasn't been there that long, is he? He's not that old. Last time they won it was 2006. Well, danged if he wasn't coaching them in 2006. Then he went to Colorado 2013 to 2016, fired there. Only one Coach of the Year, of course. And then back to the Remparts. So he's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seasons in the queue. Riding the bus. 2 members. No wonder I love this guy.
To go from being a head coach, a Jack Adams winner in the NHL, and then winning a Memorial Cup, not too many guys do that. And then come back, and who knows what he'll do, whether it's New York or somewhere else. But Patrick Roy, yeah, he's one of the best. And, like, the era he played goal, too. Like, the players were getting, players have been good forever, but a lot of great players. Goaltending was tough. And that was an era where you played as a starting goaltender 70 games a year. Like, you weren't sitting here playing 50 games or 45 games like the starting goaltenders do in today's hockey. So to hold that goals against average, that save percentage, win those games and be that good when you play in like 90% of your team's games, it's incredible.
Where's Bill in Brantford? I want to hear from him. Haven't heard from him for a while. He always watches on Game Plus TV. He says this show reminds him of Coach's Corner, but it's for 2 hours every day. 902-518-33. That's the thing. I enjoy my visits everywhere, but particularly in Calgary with Kelly Rudy, because we talk with the same language, goalie language, right? And what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
Imagine Coach's Corner if Don Cherry was the host and could just go wherever he wanted to go. That's kind of what this show is a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And Ron's got to wait to speak. Yeah.
Well, it's just Kelly, he's in the machine. And you know what I mean by that. He's in the washing machine. Kelly, when you're in it, you don't step outside it. You don't think outside it. You don't stop to breathe. But when Kelly comes out to Grey Eagle, for instance, in Calgary, we sit and we chew the fat and we talk about that. He's out the machine for a second, stops. And I'm like, Kelly, did you ever not play back-to-back nights because of load management or whatever they have? He's like, no. And the way Kelly talks, he's like, and by the way, I played 3 games in 3 nights. I said, now I bet you won them all. And then when the Flames were having some goaltending trouble a couple years ago, it was before Markstrom, I said to Kelly, well, you're not the goalie coach for the Flames, but do they ever ask you about goaltending tips? And he's like, no, they don't. And I'm like, why the hell would you ask Kelly Rudy anything about goaltending? What does he know about it?
Did you see the clip after the game 1 that went to 4 or 5 overtimes, Carolina, Florida? And the ref's talking to one of the players. And he said, I heard you played 55 minutes last night. Hey? And the guy's like, yeah, and I still got energy today. And the ref says, yeah, I play 60 every night. And I was thinking about Rudy and all the goalies. It's like, we're in there 60 minutes every night. So take your 55 minutes ice time and shove it.
Oh, I know. Well, now it's cool with these heart monitors and stuff. You could track the actual movements of the goaltenders. For instance, Brandon Montour skated 9 miles that night in the 4 overtime game. The goalies were active too, just like the refs, as you say. Chris in Heidelberg, Ontario says, Patrick Roy looks like the clone robot Santa in the Santa Claus 2. Frankly, I'm a bad Santa fan myself. Rick in Martinsville writes in and says, it's usually Americans yapping about Stanley staying south. I normally just ask who won the World Baseball Championships, and then they say, cheers. How about we stop whining? How about that? Moose, see you in overtime, okay?
Later.
But as the Leafs fan you are, you're going to want to be staying tuned, Moose and all Leafs fans and Penguins fans, for Rob Rossi joins us next from the Athletic Pittsburgh as we talk about Kyle Dubas coming to town to run the Penguins. We're live on the Game Plus television network across all of Canada and 31 U.S. states. On the radio in Atlanta, where we are Atlanta's NHL show in WQEE, podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Well, a beautiful morning over there in Las Vegas. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup, just down the block from there. T-Mobile Arena, 8 p.m. Eastern. Golden Knights home to the Florida Panthers. TNT's got the broadcast here in the States and Sportsnet in Canada. There's a lot of news out of the NHL today. From Anaheim, the Ducks have hired veteran NHL assistant and AHL head coach Greg Cronin to be their new head coach. Ducks GM Pat Verbeek announced the decision today to hire the 60-year-old Cronin, who will be a first-time NHL head coach. And it was last week, as we bring in Rob Rossi from The Athletic Pittsburgh, senior writer at The Athletic, that the Penguins named Kyle Dubas their president of hockey operations. Rob, welcome to the show. I appreciate the time. That seems like old news now, man. How's the Kyle Dubas era been? Days old there in Pittsburgh.
First, thanks for having me. The post hire era has been a lot less chaotic than the previous couple of seasons and a lot quieter than the last couple of weeks. So it feels like it's getting back to sort of normal off season for a team that didn't make the playoffs. Though it's been 17 years since I covered an off season where the team didn't make the playoffs. So there's a lot of excitement in Pittsburgh. I will say that the hire kind of re-energized the fan base in a way that I haven't seen over the last couple of years.
Interesting. Well, I read your article. Maybe you can summarize that for our viewers about the chaotic past couple of seasons in Pittsburgh. You guys aren't used to that. Can you tell the viewers what you wrote about there?
Yeah, myself and my partner on the beat, Josh Yohe, we've been working for months on this article. It's up on theathletic.com now. Just look for the word chaos and you'll find it. It's a lengthy article, so if you read it, I thank you for your time. Basically, it dates back to the hiring of Ron Hextall and Brian Burke and how, it gets into what went wrong. The Penguins have been sort of the flagship franchise of the NHL during the salary cap era. Nobody had won more Stanley Cup championships. Nobody had played in more consecutive postseasons. They were, I think, third overall in points since the start of the salary cap tenure, and just how it all went wrong in 1 year. And a lot of it was miscommunication. A lot of it was because ownership changed in the middle. And, Hextall and Burke came in with a willingness to break up Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. Not a mandate to, but they had to be willing to do it, which was different from years past. And when Fenway Sports Group purchased the franchise in January of 2022, pretty quickly, the Fenway Group decided they wanted to keep the big three, as we call them here in Pittsburgh, together. And from there, it just got weird. They were very unnecessarily tense negotiations between Hextall and both Letang and Malkin's camps, some curious offseason decisions, a complete disintegration of communication lines between Coach Mike Sullivan and Ron Hextall. And then, it kind of led to this disappointing year where the Penguins, at the beginning of the calendar year this year, just everything started kind of going against them. Goaltending injuries, Chris Letang, who had his second stroke a couple weeks earlier, his dad died, he missed time. And then this trade deadline that to this day nobody can make sense of. It all led to a lot of drama in Pittsburgh, a lot of behind the scenes, and I think it derailed their season.
I want to ask you, I'm glad you brought that up. I guess that was the last straw, the trade deadline. Why were Penguins fans so mad? Because I was busy watching all 32 teams. What was it specifically that had the Penguins fans so upset? And it looks like sealed the fate of Hexie and Brian Burke.
I think it was three things. As we wrote in the article, neither one of them were popular hires. Unfortunately for Hextall, he had his tenure in Philadelphia, which wasn't that successful. And you got to remember, he's following a Hall of Fame general manager here who was pretty popular. And then secondly, Burke and him didn't have the trust of the fans because Hextall had been a Flyers player, a pretty famous one, and Burke had been very critical of the team before they were hired. And then after that, I think the third thing was, so they weren't really given the benefit of the doubt. But I think it was a combination on the third reason. One, there was a little bit of knowledge about how Hextall didn't really want to keep the Malkin and Letang, maybe one or the other. And fans are protective of those players. And But there was also this sense that there was no plan. There was no real point at any duration of the 2 years that they were in charge, Hextall and Burke, where they like laid out a direction. It just seemed to be moves that didn't coordinate with what they with any type of connectivity. And I think the fans here are savvy enough to be like, we know when we're being fooled.
And so Kyle Dubas, you said that they're very excited there in Pittsburgh with the hiring of Kyle Dubas. What has them excited?
Well, certainly the Penguins are a fan. We joke about them here in Pittsburgh as like they're the mid to small market version of the LA Lakers. They always have stars. They always play an entertaining brand of hockey. They're a place that's comfortable being in the limelight. And Dubas is kind of a rock star as a GM. I think he was 31 when he was hired as a GM. He's only 37 now. He was a GM in the biggest market. If you can handle the pressure there, and let's face it, I know that people knock his teams for not doing better in the playoffs, but the Leafs weren't getting to the playoffs before Dubas got there. And he's a young guy, and he's seen as a guy that already can communicate what his objective is, can illustrate what his preferences are, how he wants to do things. He comes with a sort of sense of authority that you never felt the other regime had. And I think the fans here were just so dismayed by the way the previous regime handled things, combined with missing the playoffs, that they looked at Dubas as a guy that sort of fit with the Penguin brand more.
I like it. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a fantastic chat, and I learned everything that I wanted to. Rob, keep up the great work. Enjoy the offseason if you ever really get one in the National Hockey League, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Appreciate it, Rod. Thanks for having me on.
Rob Rossi, senior writer at The Athletic, covering the Pittsburgh Penguins. I hope you learned as much there as I did. When we come back, Audience Takeover. We're live on Game Plus Television. We're Atlanta's NHL show on WQEE Radio. Also podcast and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Thank you for being a friend. Da-da-da. Hey, we're not in Las Vegas, but the two last teams standing are for the Stanley Cup final. Game 2 is tonight. The Moose joins us here for overtime, and I'm excited about this week ahead. I'm excited about tonight. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup, Florida at Vegas. The Golden Knights lead 1-0. The poll question for Key Auto Group is who wins. Moose, it's about 50-50. And Major League Baseball, Houston at Toronto tonight. Sorry, the first of a 4-game series. I'm just so excited, Darren, to put this to you. From the 902-518-3033 text line for Progressive Insurance. Leonard Strandberg writes in, and you know Leonard. You met him at the Centennial Cup. Just a great hockey guy. I love Leonard. And he says, I am a diehard Leafs fan, but I also never agreed with them when they hired Dubas. I'm looking forward to a different result from Tree Living. Hopefully. I got to put this to the Leafs fans. Or maybe I shouldn't, because I'm just looking at this from the outside going, what is the attraction to Kyle Dubas? I've got NHL friends that call him Captain Instagram. Like the guy, they don't take this guy seriously. Rob Rossi just talked about him like he's the second coming of Sam Pollock, who engineered all the Stanley Cup wins in Montreal. Like, what is the deal with Dubas? How do you, as a Leafs fan, typify the Kyle Dubas era there in Toronto? They didn't win anything.
No, but they were very good consistently, and they set franchise records for points.
Okay.
We're able to put a good group together, in the salary cap era. I think that's kind of the way he works the cap, and I think, I think he's a smart kid. I think he's for the most part really well respected around the league. I think he's young, but I feel like he's starting to earn it. And no, I think Kyle Dubas is a good general manager. I think he's going to have a really bright future in the NHL. But he is not an old school hockey guy. He's very new school, and that's tough when you're in a transition period between old school and new school. It's a tough spot to be in.
Good point. Well, that's why we got you here, Moose, to bring up the good point. Randy from Winnipeg says, I'm sorry, not a Dubas fan. Jeff the Stamps fan says Dubas was young and different. Okay, so fair. I mean, it would be an awful boring world if we all saw things the same way, wouldn't it? I wouldn't hire him. Len Strandberg wouldn't have hired him. You're saying it was reasonably, it wasn't a disaster. No, it was not a disaster. I'll give you that. Ted in Red Deer writes in and says, great updates from Pittsburgh. This show gives you the feel for a city. Lou from Calgary, Jesse from Minnie, and a whole bunch of others. I really appreciate Ted from Red Deer saying that, and I'd like to meet Ted from Red Deer one day because he sees things the way that I do. And I remember very clearly sitting down with producer Clark, and Clark probably does too, on the leather couch in the bunker. And I said, let's bring in some people from the other NHL cities because, quite frankly, this is just me. I get tired of and they're my friends, but the Darren Dregers and the Pierre Lebruns and the Chris Johnstons and the Sean McKinnon, I get tired of those. It's the same thing every day. I love Dave Poulin, but all I ever hear about is the Leafs and the Habs and the this. There's other teams in the NHL, And that's how Brian Ray came on from Dallas and all these Florida guys down here. So thank you, Ted, for noticing that. Bernie Nichols with his LA Kings knowledge. That's cool. But again, I don't necessarily agree with this guy. Like, Pittsburgh fans, I feel, know the game far more than Panthers fans and a lot of Lightning fans. But Dubas is the rock star GM. I guess we'll find out how it turns out, Darren. Like I went back and read the article from when. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say he's got a tough challenge, right? Dubas has to navigate this whole business of Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and what's next, because we're not talking about, we're talking about that era continuing, but it's in the low single digits of how long it's going to last. Right? So he's going to have to navigate that transition. And, does Pittsburgh stay as a playoff team and maybe somewhat of a contender? Do they bottom out? If so, for how long? It's a big challenge for Kyle Dubas. He's not walking into a rosy situation, I don't think.
No. From WQEE, Ryan O'Radio says, another great RP show as always. Thank you, Ryan. John Ohm says, in Toronto, mediocre is celebrated? No, in Winnipeg it is, John. Allie in Texarkana says, great show today, Rod and Moose. Have a great Monday, everyone. Well, I've actually never been to Pittsburgh. It's on my bucket list. It's not high on my bucket list. What's high on my bucket list are New Orleans and Chicago. I stroked Jacksonville off this year, spent New Year's Eve there. I wonder how many people there are that look like Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh. I'm guessing quite a few. Somebody wrote in here earlier, I think it was the kid from Winnipeg, one of the Chad, who said, if a Canadian team wants to win a Stanley Cup, they need to play better. It's that simple. At bare bones, yes. But Kyle Dubas very clearly couldn't go anywhere in Toronto without being recognized. Brad Treliving couldn't go anywhere in Calgary without being recognized. Down here, South Florida, there's 1 million people that look like Bill Zito. 1 million. The general manager of the Florida Panthers can go anywhere and nobody would know who he was. I would think Kyle Dubas could probably leave his condo in downtown Pittsburgh, Darren, and go, go for a coffee at Starbucks and not be harassed about the power play. That's one. I bet you Dubas is a little relieved to have this Pittsburgh thing. What do you think?
I can see it. Yeah, absolutely. When he gets to just do his thing and maybe not be scrutinized so heavily. And I know Pittsburgh has a great media scene. They love their Penguins. It's a big deal in that town. But it's not the same. It's not the same as Toronto. I agree.
I'm just thinking of past Leaf GMs. We should have producer Clark on the show for this. That Gord Stellick comes to mind. Was never GM again. And that happens. I mean, I can go back to the junior hockey loop. In Regina, it was a graveyard for coaches with the Pats. In my time, Tim Tisdale, never coached again. Bob Lowe's, never coached again. Dale Durkap, never coached again. They weren't the problem. Just so you know.
John
so
Ferguson
maybe Toronto
Jr.
ruins.
Dave Nonis just popped up, right? For the first time since he was the GM of the Leafs.
Yeah, but not as a top guy. Ryan in Toronto said, last minute of play in the RP show today. Ryan in Toronto says, what a start to the week. Another amazing show today, Rod and team. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I like the guess a lot from Clark. Clark, you keep doing what you're doing, Governor. I enjoyed that Rob Rossi guy. I enjoyed Craig Ballard. Good guy. I didn't know them. Clark knew of them. What do we got tomorrow, Clark? Can you say off the top of your head? Yeah. Tune in tomorrow and find out. Well, I know Wednesday. What? Live from the beach house.
No, it's good.
On Wednesday is going to be great with the Golden Girl. Thank you for being a friend. Bill Lindsay. Yeah, just stay tuned, everybody. Just don't get your knickers in a knot. See you, Moose.
Bye.
Noon Eastern tomorrow, right here.
Who has more fun than us?